Okay. Dennis, happy hour to you, my friend. Here we are again.
Here we are.
Still
what
alive.
about now? Let's do this now. Oh, Lord God. Yes. Happy hour number
How you doing?
70.
71.
Hey, I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Oh, hanging in there.
So the other day, to get some laughter flowing, I Googled other actors imitating Robert De Niro. And I knew that it was going to be very funny. Only second to other imitators doing Al Pacino,
Right.
or Christopher Walken. But any of those, I'll repeat and repeat.
De Niro is a good one to impersonate.
De Niro, yeah. Well,
Bobby, as the celebrities call him.
Bobby. He's got a lot of mannerisms. You
do that
don't
thing
have
with your
to
cheek and your.
You don't have to speak to imitate De Niro. You just
Right.
You just look around and then you mouth words. What?
Great podcast material, I must say.
I know it. People could just picture it.
Let's
right?
just mime the rest of the show. We can all just an hour of silence where we're just like miming shit.
All right. Yes. For the next hour, we're going to do nothing but breathe.
Yeah.
Breathe in. Breathe out.
Hey, that's like the famous composition by John Cage called 433. Are you familiar with this?
No.
So, I want to say mid-20th century. I could be wrong about that. But he's an avant-garde, what is music really, man, composer. And he composed this piece called 433, 4 minutes and 33 seconds. And the entire piece is a rest. So when they first performed it, guy came up on stage and he opened the little door to the piano and everyone was quiet and they sat there, and he lets 20 seconds go by and then he closed the little door on the piano and everyone was like, what the fuck? I thought we were here for music. And it's this thing that is still talked about today of what if you are forced to sit in the silence of your life for 4 minutes and hear the sounds around you, and maybe there's a bird, maybe there's a car, maybe if you're in a theater to watch a musical performance, maybe there are people coughing or shuffling or something, and
helicopter crashing down towards you out of the midnight dark,
for example,
in a thunderstorm.
That happens to me at least once a week. But the idea is this reflection on what is silence really, and is silence really silence, and it's this sort of meditative, mindful, be in the moment idea that, like, people still debate about whether or not 4 minutes and 33 seconds of rest is actual music. But man, I bet the MP3 compression.
How many minutes? 4 minutes, 33 seconds.
Yeah.
And the audience paid attention to the silence and did not.
The first time, I think they were pretty confused. But like the person sitting at the piano, every like 30 or 45 seconds would do something, would stand up or sit back down or something to like keep the audience.
Keep the
suspense. Exactly.
Which would keep them quiet.
But in the end, the whole.
So it's actually a demonstration piece. It's performance art.
Right. But I swear to God, you can download this and play it on your iPod.
And what does it sound like? Quiet?
Yeah. It's the same sound as if you're not playing it.
We'll save everybody the trouble and tell them not to play it. Just imagine it.
No, but.
Or just sit there and shut the fuck up for 4 minutes and 33 seconds.
Which is hard.
Yeah.
For sure, my kids can't do it. And for sure, I can't.
Like, well, if you do yoga or practice meditation or any type of
but it takes effort.
Then that's a dedicated discipline,
right?
Which is hallmarked by the fact that when you begin to do it, it's really hard to do it. That you're constantly thinking, "No, I don't want to do this. I got something else I got to do," and stuff going through your mind.
Yes. As the old saying is, which I'm sure I probably mentioned when I mentioned my company's meditative practice, is that if you say I'm too busy to meditate, that's like saying I'm too sick for medication. It's right. That. So we had another meditation. 40 minutes today at my work.
Oh, really? Uh-huh.
And for the rest of the company that lives in California, it's 9 a.m. And 9 a.m., you're fully rested, you're there, you're getting focused for the day. But for me, it's 6 p.m. And at 6 p.m., if you ask me to lie down still for 40 minutes,
What time do you start?
What time do I start what? Work. 9 a.m.
If 6 p.m. is late. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and you're exhausted?
No, but it's afternoon.
But you're just not sharp.
It's afternoon.
You're just not sharp.
And also, it's at the end of the day, if someone tells you to lie down for 40 minutes, good luck staying awake. If you've been doing work for
That's
8
true
hours.
for me anytime after about 10:30 in the morning.
Right, exactly.
But I get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock.
So anyway,
so
there were times when I don't know if I totally dozed off, but for sure for a couple minutes. And then the meditation guide was like,
calling your name.
no, it's not
You
we don't have the
realize
video
it's
on the
the
Zoom
boss.
call. If we had our video on and audio where like I was snoring or something, but no. But then the lady comes on and is, okay, so now that you've focused on the person in your life that you would most like to be give gratitude to, now let's focus on something else. And I'm like, whoa, where are I?
Well, did we already do that first thing? That thing you were saying about other people? Did we? Question: Did you raise your hand? Did we already do that?
Yeah.
On this call?
Everyone is muted except for the guide.
But how many people?
Probably 12 or 15.
Ah, okay. That's true.
It's not like
if you
400.
can't unmute yourself, what do you do? Raise your hand through a chat box?
No, we don't talk back. You're supposed to be being quiet and vulnerable and alone.
You can't ask questions?
You can ask
he's
questions,
telling you
but
to lay down and think about things. You can't like raise your hand and say, what about this? Start to lay down and raise your hand again and say, what about this? And do you keep doing that until he says, look, I can't, you've got to settle down.
yeah. Please leave
No
the
more
room.
questions.
Yes.
Please.
But-
How would you interact though?
No, we don't interact.
No, I don't. I know you don't. I'm asking if you can.
I could, like, everyone has their Zoom call on mute and with no camera. But I suppose at any time you could turn on your camera and be like, hey, I had a question. Everyone would hear me.
But if you turn the video on and off so that it looks like it's an old time movie, and then that'll catch their attention, and then say, hey, did you like that? Was that cool? It looked like an old time movie.
Or
And your instructor would be like, Erik, it's not appropriate. What we're trying to do here.
yeah, okay,
It's
now
just-
that everyone has relaxed with their breath, everything is super calm. And then I come in and be like, hey, have you checked out Hype?
Hey, it just came to me. Do you remember this magazine that used to like be just about how to build huts? Out of canvas and mud. And oh man, I was laying there trying to relax, like you said, and it came to me and it just woke me up. So, did you used to get that magazine?
Sir,
Erik,
can you please leave the meditation chamber? Yeah.
it's a time to relax.
Indeed.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Just like this hour. Yes.
I like it when you wake people up like that and they start like a fucking pig, choking on their own back of their own throat.
Yeah, well,
That's always fun. Isn't that
yeah.
fun?
That's super fun.
It
Hey, piggy boy, you say.
doesn't sound to me like you think it's fun.
Okay, Dennis.
Oh, you snore a lot. That's the problem.
I do.
That's right. You're a oof. I remember now. You rattle the motherfucking walls. The paintings on the wall are fucking bouncing. When you sound like a God. I remember that now. Oof.
Okay,
Oh,
Dennis.
you got your own room. Yes.
I mentioned to you that over the weekend I watched what was a pretty important movie to me in my childhood called Space Camp. Have you seen this movie? Do you know anything about it?
No, I know about it. I believe it's a Michael Jordan movie.
No, that's Space Jam.
Oh, what's this called?
Space Camp.
Oh, Space Camp. It's
Space
interesting.
Camp.
There's only a 2-letter difference
Yeah.
between those two
Yes.
names of those movies.
One has Bugs Bunny. Yes. So Space Camp was this movie from 1986 where some kids go to what I imagine is still called Space Camp. There's this program that you can sign up to try and get into in Huntsville, Alabama, where you go to NASA and as kids, you participate in sort of a mock version of the astronaut program, and you learn
Wow,
about
cool.
what it
Yeah,
would be like.
yeah.
And when I was 12, I thought being an astronaut was the coolest possible job ever, and I wanted to do that. And I wanted to go into aeronautical engineering because I thought even if I can't become an astronaut, like that's maybe one path to being an astronaut, but I could at least build the rockets that take people to space. I thought that would be super
Which,
cool.
of course, is one of the skill sets. That variation of skill sets would be instrumental in at least one person on a flight. One would think.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah. So
Biologist.
that was my thinking. And I wanted to, your typical Michael Crichton book has a team where there's one biologist and there's one psychologist and there's one chemist and there's one whatever. And so that sort of idea. And Space Camp was like my ideal of I want to go there. Like it would be so cool as a kid to go to NASA and learn to be an astronaut. And anyway, the premise of Space Camp is that so it sounds like you haven't seen it, but so there's first of all, the two female leads were like super pre-adolescent crushes of mine on the Hollywood stage. They're super cute, and so the premise of this movie is
get your hands out of your lap. Every time you start to talk about these stories, you start to jitter around in your chair.
The premise of the movie is, what if these kids that were studying in these simulators to be astronauts, what if they got in a space shuttle for a test fire of the rockets and they actually got fired into space?
Oh my God.
And so it's one of these.
And that's the start.
That's the premise.
That's good.
Yeah. So it's.
I know. It's fucking noisy.
Yeah. But so that's the whole premise of the movie. But the reason that they get fired into space is because there's this little sort of chubby boy that has a robot, and he tells the robot, "Hey, I really want to go into space." And the robot goes and interfaces with the computer and makes it so that this accident happens, right? And I want to share with you this clip because when we started the movie, I told my kids, yeah, some of the actors from this went on to be famous. Mostly the female actors went on to be famous. But I did not realize who was this boy. And the title of YouTube video is going to give it away to you. But try and imagine me watching this without really knowing. Click on that YouTube video. Turns out the actor just won an Oscar last year.
There you go.
Still loading?
Yeah, the YouTube icon is here. It comes. All right. Oh, yes, I have seen this, and I do know who it is.
What a little baby face.
But I think that all I've seen is a snippet. That's quite the scene.
Yeah. So anyway, I was so surprised. I was like, that guy looks familiar.
You know what? I think maybe all I saw of this was just his face.
Right. Maybe. But anyway, for the listener that has not yet gone to the show notes at happyhour.fm/074, the actor that played Max in Space Camp was none other than Joaquin Phoenix, who just won an Oscar last year for his role as the Joker, which we have discussed previously on this exact show.
Oh my God, yes.
So close that window. Come back to me.
Come back to me. Oh, come back to me. Oh, I sent you, I hope you got it, a little connection to a female singer who sings a song intended for the governor of Iowa about what's going on in the small towns in Iowa.
I got this.
And apparently it starts with the premise that the governor's apparently pretty clueless about this. Did you get it?
I did. I did not actually listen to the song because it didn't seem to be linked to in the article, but I read the lyrics.
If you're not in a hurry tonight, I'm not particularly, go ahead and can we listen to that together? Because I want to see your reaction to this one. And it's not about the lyrics. It's about the performance.
Okay, so I'm not sure how to do that. It didn't seem to be linked to in this article.
The article had the video contained within it. I didn't actually just send you the video. I sent you the whole article. So that might create a problem. But anyway, we can do it at another time if it looks like technical moments. But I will tell you this about it. You will love the way she sings this song. That's the reason that I sent it to you. So the other, let's see, what else did I send you was we did exchange a little bit about Homeland. And I'm now binge watching, and I'm closing on season 2. I did not know that Damian Lewis's character, Brody, I did not realize until the very end of season 1, the final episode of season 1, that season 2 was going to pick up with him. I did not, because one of the things is when you go to Showtime and you look at the lineup, for reasons that are a little inexplicable, probably they only show 6 or 7 actors. They're probably all related to episodes much more current than something that was 12 years ago. So they don't even list Damian Lewis. So I can only, so I knew that at some point he wouldn't be in it forever, and there's no reason to think so. But I would tell you this, that we've talked about him before, both in, was it
Band of Brothers?
Yeah, and then Billions.
Billions, yep.
And thought that Brotherhood was amazing acting on his part. I've never seen anything like what he does in Homeland.
It's really,
I've never
really good.
seen a better portrayal of the emotion and the twisted pain of that character. Is
season 2 where he's like in exile in Brazil or somewhere?
No, that hasn't happened yet, so that's probably a spoiler for me. But he ends up getting caught in season 2.
Right.
And they cut a deal with him, which is apparently going to happen in the next episode or so, which means that his wife, he becomes a double agent in effect.
Right.
And in exchange for that, he gets a free pass. And of course, he's going to take that. And I don't know how long it continues with him, but his acting and the interaction between he and the lead, Carrie, the main character, which is just,
She's pretty spectacular in that show.
Astounding performance. Once you see her at her worst, which happens in the latter part of episode 1 with her psychological challenges.
Yeah,
but holy
better.
shit,
Yep.
Damian Lewis is stunning. And so I wondered, and I have been too lazy to do anything about my wonderment, what type of awards he received for that acting in the interesting world of awards for Emmys. It would be for this case.
Looks like he got a Primetime Emmy Award and a Golden Globe.
A Golden Globe
And
for Best Actor.
Winners of the 64th Golden Globe. Damian Lewis, winner, Homeland, Showtime, lead actor in a drama series. Yep.
Oh, Lord. That's serious chops.
And he beat out, like, Mad Men and Dexter and Breaking Bad and Downton Abbey. That's some competition there.
Yeah, deserved that. I'm glad to hear that. So he's done since then. He's done billions. I haven't seen him in movies, but I'm sure he's in plenty.
Oh, shit.
But anyway,
his Wikipedia page says that he played Steve McQueen in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That was him.
Wow.
That makes good sense. Now I can picture that scene perfectly, of course. Corey, you got to find that and post that. It's almost as good as John Lennon in
Yesterday, yes.
My whole desk just fell apart. That's a predictable bummer. I'm just going to leave it.
Hold on.
And the Scottish actor who played John Lennon, famous from his days in, what was it, Full Monty.
Yes.
And probably in the Ewan McGregor movies, punker movies. I think he was in those as well when he was younger. What was that series called? There were 2 movies. Trainspotting and...
Yes.
I'm not sure what the second one. Not Trainspotting 2.
Hold on. Yeah, I'm trying to find the Steve McQueen scene, but...
That's all right. I'll straighten up my fucking desk here.
Straighten up your desk.
I had this thing up here. That's where I want it. It fell down. You showing me?
I'll send you a picture. Yawn.
Do you know people who make noises all the time?
I do. Great shot, McQueen. Anyway.
It's not a very good shot at all on my end.
No, it's not a good shot on my end either.
What's he doing? It looks like he's lighting a cigarette, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I can't see his face worth a shit.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I tried.
You tried. It was worth a try. We didn't get to hear the song. We'll click on that next time. The Iowan folk singer. Let me tell you this as you look forward to listening to that again, is I want to talk next episode about what influences you heard in her work.
In whose work?
In her style. The woman from Iowa that I just talked about a moment.
Yes.
Who sings a song about the small town Iowans together.
Homework.
But think of that. Homework assignment number 1.
Oof. Number N. Oof. I've had so many. I watched the movie Forsaken that you recommended with the Sutherland family, Donald and Kiefer, and it was good. It's great performances, but the movie as a work of art is typical Western. Like, people have trouble. There's a bad guy that's pressuring somebody to sell their land. People get shot.
Played by whom? The Scottish actor. And the
bad guy. So the bad guy
star
with the cool mustache, I recognized him, but I didn't know from where. He was one of the villains on Kiefer Sutherland's 24, his TV show called 24, where
he's played a lot of dudes. He is the star of Succession.
I've seen Succession,
and he is the patriarch of Succession.
Is
he? The absolute star. And also, if you wanna get hip to the dude, and what's his name is, look it up. I'm so bad with fucking names. I remember when I don't have to.
So the old guy, Brian Cox. Yes, he's the old guy in Succession. I was talking about the younger bad guy, Michael Wincott. But yes, Brian Cox is a Scottish actor.
Check him out on Bill Maher. Okay. Check him out on Bill Maher. He's the special guest, so it's a pretty short bit at the end. Mm-hmm. But he talks about the series, of course, and also his political views and the Scottish political scene, which, Jesus, what a long-standing issue when the British Empire so controlled so much of the world, which ended in World War II, but still continues in Scotland.
Mm-hmm. Scotland is one of the last colonies, right?
Yeah, and they were worldwide. It was obliterated under Churchill, just obliterated. But when you think about what they were fighting, which was Germany and Japan, each wanted world domination. Here's another way to think about it. They wanted to take the place of Great Britain. They wanted to be the world empire and take it away from Great Britain. That's one of the reasons the United States was like, hey, we don't have any holdings. This world empire stuff, that's not what we do. We're here. We're here to get away from that shit. So whatever the fuck you're doing over there with your world empire taking over people, that's not what we believe in here, although it was practiced here internally, of course, forever. But not country to country, international internal. So, holy shit.
Yeah. Demi Moore was also in this as a pretty good-looking 52-year-old. She wasn't a witch.
She was in Witch. No, she was in what?
Forsaken.
Oh, yes, of course.
She was the old love spark.
And with an iron. The opening scene with her was so fabulous because you absolutely knew that she was going to be in charge of that relationship without a doubt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But here's the thing is, Donald Sutherland has been in some amazing movies, done some amazing roles. Kiefer Sutherland has often played a character that I despise. Mm-hmm. The most prominent of which is in A Few Good Men, when he perfectly plays the role of the underling. You'll have to Google to remind us of his name in the movie, the character he played. But he was so
Jonathan
awfully good.
James Kendrick. Yeah. Anyway, Kendrick.
He was, yes, Hendrick.
Kendrick.
Yes, Hendrick.
Kendrick. Yeah. So.
Oh, wait a minute. Heifer Sutherland.
He's a heifer.
And
yeah.
Who played
so in Forsaken he plays this very common trope that everyone loves, including myself, of this super trained warrior combat guy that doesn't want any fights. He doesn't want to fight anymore. He's tired of fighting.
I don't want to fight. No,
but he will if you fuck with him.
On me with this character. And that's where this movie differs from the typical trope. You will not see another movie, you won't be able to name one, that's for sure, where that combatant who just wants peace gets to the point that he's cleaning up the shit on the floor, spit there, and letting him get spit in the face. All these other movies,
he breaks before.
When it gets to that, there is an attack that is astounding. In this movie, it was grindingly apparent that his degree of commitment to the nonviolent tenor of things was so deep that we didn't like it. We looked at him groveling and said out loud probably, you got to be fucking kidding me, man. Get up and fucking blow their fucking head off.
Right.
Or something maybe a little less violent. Yeah. Shit, man. Get up and fucking bash the dude's face until it looks like a bowl of red mashed potatoes, man. This can't stand, dude.
That's what I was thinking. That's the note that I took when I read yeah.
This won't stand. So were you disgusted? I was disgusted.
No, I knew that it was a trigger that was going to be pulled eventually.
Eventually. It was astoundingly long tooth into the story.
But so it reminded me of like Jason Bourne also doesn't want any trouble, but if you fuck with him, he will kick your ass. And another famous franchise that I recently discovered that has been around for a while. Are you familiar with John Wick?
Yes.
A series of movies.
Yes, very much so.
By Keanu Reeves. And he is...
Who is in a new movie, by the way. Reeves.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He's got a reboot of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure coming out.
Can you believe it?
But anyway, John Wick is very much that character of, look, man, I don't want to fight you. And then the people keep pushing him, and then he just breaks their necks.
Here's the pinnacle. Clint Eastwood, Unforgiven. The best of that specific genre. He's a pig farmer. His wife is dead. His 2 kids. He lives in the middle of nowhere. He's starving. He's chasing his pigs. And a killer, a cheap-ass, deep bullshit young killer comes to him and offers him what to him is a large amount of money. And he says, I'm not going to do this anymore. And of course, he does it. And he told his wife he would never do it again, and he never did, and he does it. And if you're familiar with it, right? You've seen it.
I've seen it, but many years ago. And again, like already you're telling the same Western trope that I already said of guy comes, wants to buy your land.
Yes.
You don't want to.
Yes. So the most important thing of those movies, many things, I won't say the most important, but up there, much of what's important, is the degree that the bad guy is amazing in his character. Gene Hackman in Unforgiven is that character. Mm-hmm. And in Unforgiven, I think it's the best example of that. What was the other one you said that you just used as the example a moment ago?
Jason Bourne and John Wick.
And that too is Brian Cox. Speaking of Brian Cox and Jason Bourne, he's the bad guy in that. He's the baddest of the dudes in the first episode.
How do you have this memory?
Yeah.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Memory about what?
Exactly.
Oh, by the way, tonight is Johnny Walker Black on ice.
Walker Black? I got some red.
Time a kangaroo down spot. Time. Oh, a little sip. I'll have it neat. Here's your happy hour.
I can't afford that black.
Here's the thing that gets dangerous about drinking scotch, and I have a good amount of ice on hand, and in my view, the ice makes the flavor of the scotch explode into your mouth. You can almost see the smoke coming out of the fucking glass.
Scotch smoke.
And you pour that rich scotch into that ice, and you can whiff it, and you can smell it. And when it tastes this good, it may not end up well tonight. Things may get out of hand. They've gotten out of hand before.
As I mentioned,
I tell you
before, I just recently, a year or so ago, I went to a Scotch bar where they had actual proper good Scotch, and I have a story about this too. And it was like it was a big glass, and they poured just a tiny little bit in the glass, and then they were like, "That'll be $12.50." It's like, fuck. But man, that $12.50 lasted me for 45 minutes of just taking a little sip and then having it explode, and then stay with you for another 5 minutes before you even desired another sip.
You want to get a kick? Go to one of those places and do a flight, which they might put on a ski with little places for the glasses, and they call it a flight ski. Mm-hmm. But at any rate, and take some notes, because the fact is, if you like Scotch, you're going 3 or 4 different kinds. But when you compare it, and you say, I guess I have to pick of these 3 or 4 if you want to spend $100, something like that.
Yeah, we had 2 or 3 that night.
This is the one I like of all these. Mm-hmm. So then go ahead and get a bottle, which will set you back $250, $300.
Right.
Now, and then for the next year, you get to do that pretty much anytime you want, or at least for part of the year, depending on how much you want to do it. But the reason I say that is because when you latch onto that Scotch, that becomes the one that you just say, oh my God. And is it salty? Is it seaweedy?
Is it peaty?
Is it oaky? Is it smoky?
Okie dokie.
Okie dokie. Okie dokie. That was the famous line in Wells Fargo.
Probably, yeah.
That
sounds very Minnesota. Yeah. So yes.
Yeah, I'll get those numbers to you. I'll call you back with those numbers. Oh, I sure will. Okie dokie. Yep. Okay, I gotta go. I'll get those numbers to you. Oh yeah. Okie doke. Bye bye.
So as such, it feels you can't put good Scotch in a hip flask because so much of the experience is in the nose. And when we had this really expensive good stuff, like I could bring the glass to my nose and then put it down without taking a sip.
That's the start of it.
And just be content for another couple minutes. Like you don't need to actually consume it so much. But anyway, this brings me to
if it's cheap Scotch, you can drink it straight out of the bin, but it's not the way that I've just used it as a storage unit in my office.
Right. Exactly.
So I bring the ice upstairs. I wouldn't want to be. I'm not beyond sipping this as a warmer upper or a cooler downer, depending on what time of the year.
Depending on how hot you are.
At all. Right. At all. I'm just saying that if I think about it a minute, I will take a moment and just get a glass of ice. I'm not pulling on the thing at 7:30 in the morning or anything when I'm starting work. Although I've glanced at it, and I don't want to make the mistake I've made at least several times in my life where I say, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to start drinking.
Yeah.
It's like 7:30 in the morning, and I'm going to have a Bloody Mary with some breakfast, and I just, you say, oh man, that was good. I don't want another Bloody Mary. I know. How about a mimosa? Oh, yeah, I got some champagne. I got some fucking orange juice. I got a big bucket of ice.
It's 9:15.
A couple of mimosas. And then you're like, oh man, that was good. Are you hungry? No, I'm not hungry yet, but I don't want another mimosa. Oh, how about a fucking margarita? Let's put the salt on that glass. Oh, now I'm getting hungry. How about some potato chips? Oh, so what do you want to? Hey, I know. How about some tequila? Oh, yeah, just straight up shots.
And then your family wakes up and they're like, have you made the coffee yet?
Chips and dip. Chips. Oh, there's a little brunch. What time is it? 8:30. Yeah, it's, what happens. It doesn't,
Well,
if it lasts past noon, you're in real trouble. And there's probably some other illegal substances involved. Otherwise, you're dead meat by noon. I don't want to make that mistake. I'm just saying hypothetically.
hypothetically,
I'm not saying
one could have done that. Yes. Yeah.
one could imagine.
So I recently had one of the better.
And then, oh no, now what? I'm so loaded. I know. We got to start drinking wine. That's that you're bottomed out and it's about the end of the journey when you say, oh, all right. Oh, okay, I'm ready for some wine. Let's smoke some weed and drink some wine because it's been 2 days now. It's time to close it down.
It's almost 11 a.m.
And what kind of wine we got? We only have Mad Dog, and we're serving it in a leather pouch made famous by the shepherds of old. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to drink it. You're going to go to sleep. You're going to wake up the next day and you're going to say, oh my God, what did I do?
Where did yesterday go?
Oh no, who's got those sledgehammers ramming against your temples? Oh, the boot.
The Jägermeister was a bad idea.
Oh my God. Oh, Jäger. You know the story, right? The Jäger story. This
Seems
is
like
grotesque.
there's one.
I'm glad there are not too many people ever listen to this. We had a buddy out of Little Rock, Arkansas. He's a Jaeger guy. I liked it, but I didn't drink it much. We're at a bar that's got a Jaeger Meister server right in front of us. This one.
A Jäger Sommelier?
6. Yeah. Well, it was just one choice. There wasn't much sommeliering to do. It was pull the lever and you get another one. It's 6 and 7. We're laughing, having a good time. And we're using beer to chase it down. I'm chasing it with Scotch.
Oops.
He's chasing it with beer, probably light beer. So we're stumbling, we go home, stumbling, blah, blah, blah. And I remember, oddly, frankly, finding a bust of some Greek personage in the hotel, and it ended up in my room, which is probably a story in and of itself. But when
the things you did to that bust.
When I walked in the room, I thought, oh, I should put something in my stomach. Oh, too many Jägers. So I ate a chocolate bar that was a high-fiber, organic energy bar.
I think we're going to see this bar again.
Not only the bar, but about half of that Jaeger and a good part, the Scotch had evaporated. So all there was left of the Scotch was a gag reflex that went as deep as when you did it, your balls got pulled up into your fucking stomach. And that black, sooty, tar-like mess that covered my arms was so repulsive as to take me to the mirror with blood-shot, red, weeping, inflamed eyes, and everything else askew. And I looked in the mirror, thinking about the 5 a.m. wake-up call and the 7 a.m. PowerPoint presentation I had to make to the who's who of philanthropists in a major American city, and looked in the mirror with this black soot dripping down my chin, still on my hairy arms, with my wild, red, inflamed eyes, and yelled at myself in the mirrors, "What have you done?"
Man, to have the video of that moment.
The guy I had to work with, he's, "Dude, can you do this?" I'm like, "Man, give me carbs. I need bread. I need coffee. I need bread. I need coffee. I need a sweet roll. And I got to the presentation and I just rolled with it. Thought I was a little tight, maybe. Thought I had a PowerPoint to this. Had it all down.
Tight or loose?
Then I got to a certain point. And completely forgot not only what I was supposed to say, but where I was, why I was there.
Who you were.
And who I was. And why am I here? It was like talking heads. It was like, this is not my job. This is not my presentation. Who is? And I looked at my colleague.
Why was this before YouTube?
My bro. I looked at my colleague and my bro, and I just looked at him. And I can only say,
who are we?
That for the first time in my life, the expression "doe-like eyes" would apply to me, because I looked at him with doe-like eyes that were obviously in the headlights of an oncoming tractor-trailer fucking diesel engine. And he picked up the presentation and ran with it.
Praise your friend.
And I took a big hit of coffee, stuffed maybe a couple of bites of bread in there, and then it came back to me, and he shifted it back. It was pretty much seamless. here's how this story ends, and the walking away, and the idea that that worked out and we did all right. There was a Q&A. It was a time-driven thing. We could get out. We left. We were in. We were out at work. High fives. We're done. We're walking up the street. As we're walking up the street, my buddy Brian grabs me by the arm and stops me dead in my tracks, and my right foot is raised up off the pavement, ready to step down. My left back foot is still on the pavement. Otherwise, I'd either be levitating or falling. And he stopped me, and when I looked down, there was a pile of dog shit that was about 4 inches high that was a little bit diuretic, so it spread a little bit, but still quite the essence of the image of a pile of dog shit that comes to mind. The emoji. Brown with a curly Q to it. Mm-hmm. And I was literally 4 inches from stepping in the dog shit. And I can only say that's the day that Brian not only saved my life, but he saved the fucking bottom of my brand new fucking wingtips.
Not only did he save your life, he saved your soul.
Very good. Let's make a mark here. 6:33, you've been on the air about an hour. And you've been clever at the 1 hour mark. This is a pattern we can only hope is repeated in future episodes so that we're not stymied altogether.
I was editing.
That might be the subtitle of this episode.
He saved not only your life, but your soul. No. Yeah.
SOLE.
Soul, brother. So I was editing episode 71 where we had one of these stupid would you rather questions about would you rather walk across the Grand Canyon on a tightrope or fight Mike Tyson? And then also we talked about how you got run over by a motorcycle. And I thought it was curious that later on another episode, I think the last one, where I discussed having both learned to box and ride a motorcycle. And I thought that the synergy there, like the forecasting, the prognostication of that particular episode's topics was quite... did you see those videos that I sent you?
Actually, here's the problem. I went to my phone and I couldn't get my phone to show them. So homework assignment for me.
Homework assignment.
But I tried. In fact, I tried twice. But as it turns out, it's been exceptionally busy here on the home for a lot of construction projects. I have a story to tell, I think, of some interest to you, maybe nobody else. Other people who are listening here.
You said you're not in a hurry. Let's save that for later. I want to talk about how I just showed my kids the movie Black Panther. Have you seen the movie?
With the death? No, actually, I have seen the first part of the movie, and given what was happening was I was looking for a movie to watch. Mm-hmm. This one came up. I watched the first part of it, and I have to say, I went to a different movie.
Right. Yeah.
The beginning of it was too trite for me that night. Much too trite. Too trite
for me that night. Yes. I had seen it before. Quite too trite for me that night. So I explained a little bit to my kids. Like my kids are into Supergirl, this TV show where there's a girl with superpowers. And so they're into, and there's just, as I've mentioned before, there's just enough of that show that is about a cute boy being interested in a cute girl to entertain my daughter, and there's just enough like superhero fighting to entertain my son. And so they enjoy watching that together. So I told them there was a new superhero. There was a superhero movie that they hadn't heard of, and I really wanted to watch it the day after the death of the lead actor Chadwick Boseman, and we did, and it was just great. So I do not like superhero movies, but I think Black Panther is one of my favorites. The plot,
I'd like to see the whole of it.
The plot goes along in a way. It's fairly predictable because it's a Marvel superhero movie, but the actors are so gorgeous. These are actors in their physical prime that are doing fights and stuff. But it was fun. My kids enjoyed it. They liked it a lot, and I explained that the lead actor had just died. But then I started watching some of these YouTube videos of interviews with him and tributes to him, and man, what a fucking hero he was just in life. Because like when he filmed Black Panther, he already knew that he had colon cancer. Like, he knew that was a long time ago, and he was still super fit and did the movie. But then he went to spend time like visiting children with cancer and talking to them. And there's this one clip of an interview with him where he talks about how as an adult, he thinks superhero movies are whatever, it's a paycheck or whatever. But talking to children and seeing how they see superhero movies, he came to understand that they're actually really important as being role models for the possibility of what you can be in life. And he went and thought back to when he was a kid, the sort of role models that he had from TV and how that was very real for him. And so he understood that portraying a strong black man role model superhero was actually really important.
Was it a really big deal?
Yeah.
It really
was huge.
Big deal.
And because that had never happened, all the superheroes were white, and if you were a black kid, you would think whatever. And anyway, in this interview with him, which I will put in the show notes at happyhour.fm/074, there's a moment where he's talking to these kids before the movie was released, after it had been filmed and before it was released, where the kids were saying, "Look, I'm just trying to hang on so I can see your movie." And he says, and he just breaks down because clearly some of the kids didn't make it to see the movie, and he just can't even speak about it. And that he would die at such a young age of the same thing is scary and terrifying.
Yeah. It's an interesting factor of, I think, as you see as people who know in some advance of their passing, is that their ability to connect their life with this new life-ending part of it. So Warren Zevon, am I saying this correctly? Warren Zevon, Cevon. Lawyers, Guns, and Money is just one of my favorite tunes. Werewolves in London was another one that he got in the top tier. But he was diagnosed, what was at the time months in advance of his demise, that he had cancer. And his album that he just had published before he got his diagnosis was titled something, you'll have to find it. But the whole premise of the album was how he had never gone to a doctor. He had a phobia against going to physicians. And when he was interviewed by David Letterman about a year before his eventual passing, and Letterman had promoted him on the show several times, and he actually replaced the leader of the band on Letterman. What's his ass?
Paul Schaefer.
God, Paul Schaefer. 20 times, I learned after his passing. 20 times he would replace Paul Schaefer when Paul wasn't available. And he was interviewed, and he was so funny about the things he said about what it's like to know that you're going to die, that it was heartwarming. And yet David Letterman, who always pushed through awkward moments with just a forthrightness and just a straightforwardness, interviewing him about this. And the thing that Warren Zevon said that he repeated a couple of times was that it just makes you appreciate every sandwich you eat.
Exactly.
And later in the interview, he said, you just need to appreciate every sandwich. And that just seemed to be an example in the folklore and what we've talked about in terms of simple ballads and simple lyrics that give you not only an image, but a feeling that goes along with the image. Imagine having made or having ordered a delicious sandwich and that first bite of it and thinking, not only is this heavenly, is this great, man, this is good, but also
I only get so many of these.
This might be one of the last 2 or 3 sandwiches I ever eat, maybe the last one. It's that capturing of that moment. And so these interviews, and then he performs at that interview, which you might connect with the show notes. It's just this astounding awareness that comes with that knowing of the end that I'm astounded by it. It's crazy.
So I have 2 comments about this. One is that as a parent, you have a young child, or you as a grandparent, you have a young grandchild. You scientifically, mathematically, that there will be a time when you pick them up for the last time, when you no longer are picking up your child, and and you don't know when that last time will be, because when it happens, it's just a normal thing, and then it doesn't ever happen again, and that every single moment like that needs to be cherished. That's why I make a point of putting my kids to bed and hugging them and tucking them in and stuff, because I know there's a finite number of those that I have. And okay, so point 1B of my 2 points is, I heard the other day someone say that if your parents live if your parents are still alive, or if you are a grandparent and your kid is alive, how many times a year do you see that family member? And if it's
what?
There are people that you love that you only see once or twice a year. And if you think about how much longer both of you will live, you can say, look, I'm only going to see this other person 15 more times.
Right.
Like, you can put a really finite number on the estimated, if you're lucky.
If you overthink it.
If you overthink it. No, but the point is that you need to appreciate every single time that you are with someone that you don't see very often. But again, you also need to appreciate. Okay, so point 2 is I recently learned...
This is actually, just for my own, just suffer me a moment, is that
Please.
This is actually, as much as you'd like the nomenclature here to reflect that this is your second point, when you went to 1B, that 1B was your second point. This is actually your third point. There's no reason for you to be shy about having a number of points. You don't have to reduce it to 2 so that it becomes 1 ABC, then 2 ABC. So there's 6 points. It's okay to say there's 6 points. I don't think that there's enough of a difference.
This is
for the
Roman numeral 4
1A and 1
of my bullet points.
B. Okay? It's your third point.
I said I had 2 points, but then I found another one. Okay. I recently learned of a man named Terry Fox. Have you heard of Terry Fox? I had not.
Maybe.
Terry Fox apparently is this superhero in Canada.
That's a low bar.
40 years ago, in 1980, he
a
did this.
Superhero in Canada is going to confront a waitress over the
Hold on.
The order. That she got the order wrong.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, there's a problem with a boot in the order. No, that this guy in 1980 was had suffered some cancer in his knee and had his leg amputated, and did this thing where he ran a marathon every day for 143 days. He made it halfway across all of Canada before he started feeling bad and he couldn't breathe, and he...
With only one leg?
One leg, yes. And...
It's his leg.
With a prosthetic. He wasn't hopping.
Oh.
He
wasn't hopping.
No. And so anyway, he did this to raise money for cancer research. And on September 1st, 1980, he was forced to stop, and he later died the next year of cancer, like his cancer had spread. But he's this hero. Like, there are statues in every major Canadian city. All the Canadian school children are taught about him. Terry Fox is his name. I'd never heard of him as an American, but the Canadians...
No, I had...
So I will put a little video in the show notes at happyhour.fm/074 for anyone that wants to learn a little bit more about that. Tell me about your building.
Oh, so here's the story. City of Kalamazoo, in order to build a building, you have to have a building permit. In order to get a building permit, you have to describe the building. In order to describe the building so that your building permit will be approved, you have to understand the building code, which is 600 pages and about 2.5 feet thick and written in 10 font, and defines the type of building that I'm doing, not as the accurate portrayal of the building, which is a lean-to shed, meaning it's a shed attached to an existing building, but instead it's deemed under the standards to be a carport, which it isn't at all. And so there's the conundrum. What do you write in the application, which costs $160 application fee, in such a way that it's going to be approved, so that not only is the project delayed, but you're spending time and time and time. So I had to draw up intricate plans. So I went to Google, I downloaded pictures, I did some tracings, and I must say, did a reasonably good job of depicting this building and figured all the stuff out over the course of 5 or 6 iterations of drafting.
So wait, hold on. This is a riveting story. You want to put an extra part onto a building in your property?
I want to add to my garage a shed, which is connected to one wall of the garage. So it is actually a 3-wall construction with a tin roof. And because it is up against the existing structure, which forms its northern wall, it's leaning on the structure, and it is thus called a lean-to shed, which has all sorts of codes and regulations.
It's not lean.
So it's
fat.
It's fat. Fucking mess of regulations.
So just to build, what is big government doing up in your business when you want to build something on your property?
This is the fact. This is small government.
What the hell?
And at the end of the day, while one might argue successfully that if you build a structure that's 12 feet long and 10 feet wide and has a roof and big rafters and stuff, that if the shit falls down on someone, it will kill them, is one thing. The other thing is what happens if you build it so you're actually building a tinderbox with attracting flame and all sorts of stuff.
The government wants to cover its ass for not having to come and put your fire out.
You could put it that way, but it's a public safety aspect of it, not just a pecuniary intermediary aspect of going and stopping a fire. There's the idea that we don't want our citizens to be burned up in fires. We don't want our citizens to be crushed.
Because then they can't pay their taxes so well.
I caved in lean-to sheds that will somehow collapse on an old person or an old person or whatever and kill them. And so they say, hey, there's something to this. This is dangerous. People could be killed. And then somebody else says, yeah, not only that, but we could make $160
right
by making them go through the process. Oh, well, what does that do? That hires a guy.
Right, exactly. You got to pay somebody.
He reviews the plans, and then he goes to see him. And that's what it is. It's a self-funded program that's got some sentiment in the. I can go on.
My libertarian.
Interested.
That rubs my libertarian hairs the wrong way. That I own this land.
Where exactly are your libertarian hairs located? North or south of the Mason-Dixon line?
Just saying they're pretty short. So it's a bit like if you buy a product, you buy a microwave, and you want to fiddle with it. And the government comes in and says, no, you can't fiddle with that microwave. But I bought it. This is my object that I own. And the same should go for your land and what I do on my land, as long as I'm not murdering people. If I want to build a treehouse, why does my treehouse have to be up to code?
Actually, a treehouse is a good example of loss of life and limb, particularly since a treehouse presumably is for your children rather than you.
And it's built on limbs. What you're
wanting to do is 10-year-olds to scamper up some type of a makeshift ladder that goes to a structure that, if collapses, not only crush the child but ruin your life. You might want to think that maybe the government, aka Big Brother, end of quote, as you say, does have a fucking role, because there's a lot of fucking idiots out there that will build shit that will not only just catch fire, it will incite fire. It's, hey, Sun King, why don't you come in and ignite this motherfucker? Tin, I don't know, for insulation, we'll use, newspaper. All under a tin roof.
Why did we use a magnifying glass for our roof? Yeah.
And then a glass window, perhaps on the second story, that once reflected of the sun, shining on the tin, reflecting into a fucking laser beam, the newspaper, that fucking dupe shit puts into the. Now, what would he have? We got a fucking conflagration that's going to collapse and kill your fucking grandfather. So now, how do you feel about fucking government, motherfucker?
All right. I guess I'm pro-government. But I have a story.
That was easy.
I have a story.
You went from anti-government to pro-government. There was no shifting into neutral. You're such an intellectual slut. I can barely believe that you wouldn't draw the line a little bit firmer in the ground.
I have a story where I'm fighting the government. In Spain, school starts next week, and it is obligatory that...
You're not going to fucking send them.
It is obligatory that you take your children to school.
No, you're like, fuck you.
And they have this rule in place where for the kids to get into school, normally they just crowd around on the outside of school, and then the bell rings and then they all just run in. But now every child has to stand with one parent, only one, at a certain distance, and then a teacher is going to come out and one by one take the child upstairs to the classroom, come back down, get the next child, take the next child. This is their plan. And so anyway, I am 100% certain that by October there will be so many cases of coronavirus in Spain that they are forced to shut down the schools.
Yes, research shows that consistently across America. It's everywhere, every country. We know this.
We know this. This is known.
Has a number of expendable fucking children.
So it's not so much the children that are going to die; it's the grandparents. The children are going to come home, and the grandparents are going to.
Children.
It could be the children, but so the government has said, yes, we're opening the schools. Yes, everyone has to go, and I have seen the data, and I don't feel like it's safe.
Some people have seen the data of the coming of the Lord. We won't send our kids to school no more. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, so...
Do it, bro.
So anyway, So I sent an email to the principal. I said, hey, can I talk to you? Can I schedule an appointment to talk to you?
Hey, can I talk to you? This thing you're doing? Hey, I'm not sure. I got a few questions.
Anyway, I sent that email, and then before the principal could see it, I ran into him on the street just when I was out walking around. And I said, hey, I want to talk to you.
Ran into a meeting within 6 feet. You came within proximity?
Yes. We kissed. No, we were just walking by, and I said, hey, can I talk to you for a moment? And I said, look, I know that you're doing everything that you can, and I know that your bosses in the government are telling you that you have to open the schools and you're doing everything that you can, but I don't feel safe sending my children to your school. And he said, I can't tell you that's okay because I have to tell all the parents that they have to bring their kids to school. But wink, 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 I don't know that I would send my kids to school if they were school age either. And I said, what is the
classic ethical position that people will take the right path?
And
it's a matter of conscience. It's a matter of judgment. It's a matter of who is best to protect the interests of the child, the school or the parent. And the parent will win that argument fucking 10 out of 10 times.
And so my point of view is, look, this is going to be a shit show. People are going to die. It doesn't have to be my people. Like, for the policy to change, there will be casualties, but I don't need to be in the crossfire for that. And so basically I was told, look, my kids will be marked with absentee checks or whatever, and at some point a certain number of those triggers a flag where some authority will come to your house and say, why aren't you sending your kids to school? But that's more targeted at the parents that are bad parents and concerned more about getting high than about sending their kids to school.
We're not instructing. The standard of expectation is a little bit
right. So
more
anyway,
granulated than,
my current plan, and by the time this goes out, this will have probably already happened. My plan is to not send my kids to school, and my kids are devastated because they really would like to.
Can we do a podcast from the local lockup?
Maybe so. I can try and take my
cool.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if you went to jail over this and we could do a podcast from the jail.
Yeah.
That would be the cat's ass.
Cool. That would be so cool. That would be the what? The cat's ass?
Cat's ass. Yeah.
Huh. We're not in cat's ass anymore, Dorothy.
Don't call me Dorothy. Call me Dot. Call me D. But don't ever fucking call me Dorothy.
.com.
Back at you.
We will talk later.
This is something that's been on my mind. And there's this article that I'll have to send you, and you can link it in the show notes. But here's the intro. Virgil Caine is my name, and I came on the Danville train.
Okay.
And the question is, what happens when someone is so immersed in a culture that they have no choice about what they feel is important? Because being different than what that culture forms and defines is so severe and so understood and so universally true within that culture that it dictates your beliefs about what's important.
That's like all of human existence. Yes. We all have these beliefs from our culture. Yeah. Also,
you think this is funny? Do I fucking amuse you?
So much.
Do I fucking amuse you? If we're in the same room, I'd bust a fucking wine glass over your fucking noggin or your fucking ankle.
Are you not entertained?
Intruding. Now, we proved in episode number circa 62
that's a good one.
through a back and forth commentary with, I'm sure, show notes that attach to the maps that, in fact, the rain in Spain does fall mainly on the plain. Or did we prove that it, in fact, didn't? That's the case. That's the case. Or was it?
There's a lot of rain that falls on helicopters.
Black, crashing, screaming helicopters in the dark of night with lightning and thunder and screaming. And it could happen.
It has.
At least once a week, you said earlier, making light of it. You know how that makes me feel? When you make light
right
of my most horrific nightmares, you know how that it makes me feel bad.
I'm sorry.
You're not sorry. You just pretend to be sorry. You are a false imitation of sorry. You were never sorry. You'll never be sorry. You're not sorry now.
I'm Canadian sorry. I'm a Canadian sorry. All right, Dennis.
This we can't. This is well. I don't know.
We need a song or something.
It's just petering out. It doesn't
It's just
usually
like-
peter out.
Who's talking?
Oh, wait a minute. They're still talking. Are they ever going to close it down?
Did you see the clip today that I could only watch a little bit of your beloved president talking about how the thugs are carrying... Okay, Jesus, there's several things. First of all, there was the shadow people, which I'm sure you've seen. But then today he was talking about how the people throw cans of soup.
Yes.
And how cans of soup are perfect to be thrown at the police because you can't throw a brick because no one can throw a brick. A brick is too heavy. You can't throw a brick, which shows just how his upper arm strength is.
And his economic advisor describes a can of soup as exactly 1.6 cents worth of American steel. And then he holds up a Budweiser beer can made out of aluminum to make the point.
I didn't see that part. But wow. He was so convinced that they go to the store and they get these cans of soup, and then if they're caught with cans of soup, they just say, "I'm taking soup home to my mom to make soup." Yeah. But then as soon as they have it in their arms, they start throwing it at the police, and a soup can will really hit you hard because it has more momentum than a brick because you can't throw a brick because a brick is.
What's
so
interesting
heavy.
about this that I found interesting is that the rather bizarre clips are one thing. But then the science of it is another thing altogether. And here are the facts. A soup can does fit nearly perfectly in a man's hand and is very simple to be able to control and throw, number one. Number two, it is of a significant weight when full of soup. For example, cream of mushroom, cream of celery, as opposed to French onion, which is a little lighter. But the heavier soup,
fucking European
or dare I say, ham and bean or split pea. These are heavy cans.
Yeah.
The other issue is that when that projectile, thrown with a great deal of ease, in fact, the ability to aim it fairly well, strikes a human head, either side of it could cause deep gashes, and the flat of it would definitely cause some potential concussion. It is, in fact, objectively quite the useful projectile for its purposes. Those purposes, value, and ethical standard notwithstanding, the science of it is one thing. How this administration manages to take that science of it and turn it into a fucking soap opera, motherfucking Kodiak cops, what is going on here, chaos, instead of being able to get across to the American public in some degree the truth of it, which is some of this shit is dangerous and hurts people. That's true. But instead, not only makes it the only thing that fucking matters, but ends up pantomiming it into an issue that's not about that fact of dangerousness. They don't give a fuck about describing the impact of a fucking can of soup on a fucking law enforcement's head. What they want to talk about instead is the fucking economic connection between that fucking can of soup. Like they're throwing away 1.6 cents of fucking steel.
That's a bowl of soup that no one's eating.
You could still eat it. Just wash it off, and as long as the expiration date. Did you see the commercial about we've got a new house, but we've got ants, and the ants in question are relatives, Aunt Betty, Aunt Esther, etc., who are swarming all over the house, touching the countertops and looking at dust and saying, "It's a really big house. I hope you can keep it clean." That's funny. I wanted to try to end the podcast on a positive, lighthearted note. And
remember that Project Lincoln video that I sent you? That is like saying that is like the one thing that Trump cares about. Let's attack that. The Nielsen ratings for the RNC was so much lower, and they just so brutally made fun of him.
Melania, then they listened to him.
Yes.
That is a fucking killer fact.
Yes.
It's a killer. More people listen to her, and her swatting away his hand and the way she looks. It is, as we've heard and said about the Lincoln Project, an ad with an audience of exactly one.
Indeed. Hopefully things will be not any worse next time when we speak, my friend.
My life gets better, not worse. I hope my life gets better, not worse.
Not worse.
And if it does get better, I promise I'll go get her, and I'll find her, and I'll wrestle her to the ground. I'm sorry, man.
I thought we were going to end with a hearse.
That's it. A hearse. A verse about a hearse. I didn't mean to do it when I knocked her to the ground, but then the thing happened, and I was found. I thought that maybe I had inherited a curse when came along the buggy. Oh, I swear it was a hearse. Oh, so this is a verse about a hearse and a curse. And I can't imagine to end a podcast worse. But if we do conclude it, I'll tell you this, my friend, it won't be the last podcast. This is not the end.
Okay, that's it for episode number 74. There really are some great links that you really should check out in the show notes at happyhour.fm/074. And as always, we would love it if you could go to patreon.com/happyhour and give us a couple bucks to, buy a round for next week. And please, everyone, keep staying safe. See you next week.